Hey everyone, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. Want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news to share with all of you today. Today's date is October 13th, 2025, and it's Monday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and I hope you all had a great weekend. We've got so much news coming out from this war. We're going to start out with very big news out of Crimea as overnight Ukrainian drones were flying down to the Crimean Peninsula. We have reports that the Feodosia oil depot has come under attack again, and it appears to be catastrophic. Let's start off with this story here on your screen. Drones caused catastrophic damage to Russia's Feodosia oil depot. Over 800 people were evacuated from the danger zone overnight in Crimea. As a result of the attack, 11 tanks were damaged, 8 of them with diesel fuel and 2 tanks with gasoline. This was a picture coming out from the Feodosia oil depot located on the eastern side of the peninsula in Crimea. We had a huge fire that broke out. Allegedly 11 tanks were damaged, possibly even being destroyed. This attack is much worse than what we saw just happening a few weeks back, as the Feodosia oil depot also came under attack by Ukrainian drones in the recent past. So we'll be talking more about this strike here in just a moment. We also have other top headline news to share with you. A thermal power plant, gas storage facility, and also an electrical substation were attacked in Crimea overnight as well. Fires and huge damage reported at each site. Also, Trump has threatened to supply Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles if Russia does not end the war. He stated this to reporters aboard Air Force One yesterday. Also, Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's deputy chairman of the Security Council in the Kremlin, also threatened Donald Trump with the transfer of these missiles. So you would obviously expect that, right? Dmitry Medvedev, a war hawk, he comes out responding to a lot of these, missile transfers to Ukraine, things like that. So he's not very happy with these missiles possibly going to Ukraine very soon. And it could be likely Ukraine could be receiving them at some point here in the near future. So lots of news to cover with this war update. Let's go ahead and jump into this. We've got a lot of information to share with you. We'll start off here with Max 25. And it says at least 3 objects of the occupiers in Crimea were hit by the AFU, that's the Armed Forces of Ukraine, according to Dnipro Ozent, which is going to be an open source intelligence group on X. It says Tavriskaya thermal power plant, a combined cycle power plant with a capacity of 470 megawatts, a 220 kilovolt electrical substation known as KAFA, and the Feodosia oil terminal, the largest oil depot of the occupiers in Crimea. So here's a map coming out kind of showing the area where the Feodosia oil terminal is located. That's going to be this location right here that got hit overnight by Ukrainian drones. It looks like it got slammed pretty hard because we have a lot of fires that broke out there. Again, allegedly up to 11 tanks being destroyed over here. That's a very big hit, and it looks like we could see complete destruction to the Feodosia oil terminal. We'll wait for more details. That's going to be located right here in the city of Feodosia on the eastern side of Crimea. And then just a little bit to the west over here, we have the 220 kilovolt electrical substation known as KAFA. Apparently that came under attack as well. And the information that we're getting today is apparently it transfers electricity supplies from the northern side of the peninsula up here down to these areas like Feodosia. That also allows power to travel through the bridge, the Kerch Bridge basically as well. So huge hits overnight from Ukraine. Here's more information now. Vicegrad 24 breaking. Ukrainian suicide drones just struck a Russian oil depot in Feodosia in Crimea. Looks like the entire oil depot is on fire. Here's video footage coming out from the Feodosia oil terminal overnight. I mean, look at the amount of blaze here. All that fire and huge destruction to this facility. I wouldn't be surprised they got hit by more than like 10 drones because of the amount of fire that we're seeing here. You can also see gunfire coming here. Some wild gunfire, actually, all these tracer rounds going up in the skies over here, probably trying to shoot down more drones that are incoming to the facility. So definitely got battered last night. All right, now military news UA. At least 11 fuel tanks were damaged at an oil depot in temporarily occupied Feodosia after kamikaze drone attacks, 8 with diesel fuel, 2 with gasoline, and 1 empty, Astra reports. So Astra is going to be a Russian Telegram channel, very reliable source. We get a lot of information from them, talking about the destruction of this facility. And look at this video as well, a little bit further back view from what we saw in that last video. And look at the amount of fire here burning at the Feodosia oil depot. And again, from what we understand last night, about 800 people were evacuated around this area due to this blaze. So let's move on now. Special Curse and Cat a double rainbow, and a still burning Russian oil depot in Feodosia. This was a picture coming out during the day today after the strike last night on the Feodosia oil terminal. We could see a huge amount of smoke still coming from that facility as it was clearly still burning during the day and they were not able to put the fire out. Here's a video also. NOAA reports in Feodosia following the UAV attack on an oil depot. Authorities have rerouted transport and urge residents to stock up on water as emergency crews work to contain the aftermath. Check this out as well. Look at all that smoke coming from that facility. Still a major fire burning there today after last night's strike by Ukrainian drones. Very crazy video footage there. Here's a picture now. Ozent Technical, the catastrophic fire at the Feodosia fuel terminal in Russian-occupied Crimea, mildly overloaded firms. That's going to be NASA firms maps. These are fire maps that are released by NASA. The facility, one of Crimea's largest fuel storage depots, continues to burn this morning after an overnight Ukrainian drone strike. So it's got to be one of the largest maps showing the amount of fire burning, and we've never seen anything like this before. At least I've never reported it. I mean, look at the fire even breaking out here into the ocean is what's being recorded. Looks like there was just huge explosions everywhere over here. Fires reported all over the place next to this oil depot. It probably spreaded like wildfire. We might have even had buildings next to this oil depot that caught on fire due to the destruction of this facility. So crazy picture coming out from NASA firms maps overnight. Now Max 25, there was also an attack on the 220 kilovolt Kaffa substation in Crimea around midnight. Its main function is to redirect the power grid from the north to the east and distribute most of the power from the power bridge between Crimea and Russia. Yeah, so it looks like Ukraine trying to knock out the power over here as well. That's going to be this location right here again. This is the Feodosia oil terminal. Then just to the east, or the west, excuse me, that would be this Kaffa substation, the electrical substation that has about 220 kilovolts of power. So huge hit over here is going to be major electrical issues in this area with that strike on that substation. Now, additional reports suggest a Ukrainian drone strike may have also hit the 220 kilovolt Kaffa electrical substation near Feodosia, alongside the confirmed fire at the fuel depot. So just wanted to pull this up real quick to show you a close-up photo, satellite image of this facility that may have came under attack. The Kaffa electrical substation right next to the Feodosia oil terminal, just a little bit to the west of that. Now, Igor Sushko, occupied Crimea Tavri thermal power plant is on fire in Simferopol. Following night strikes by Ukraine, a massive 490 megawatt gas-fired facility commissioned under Russian occupation in 2018 is also known as the Simferopol Combined Cycle Power Plant. So we got a combined cycle power plant that came under attack as well. It's going to be a major thermal power plant located near the city of Simferopol. It's going to be like southern central side of Crimea. Drones apparently came over here and struck this thermal power plant, and as we can see in the picture today, coming out from Crimea, we've got a massive fire that broke out, probably heavy damage. We've been seeing Ukraine going after a lot of thermal power plants located inside of Russia, like the Belgorod region, also the Bryansk region. Now they're doing this to Crimea as well to knock out the power down here. And these are all retaliation strikes from Russia striking critical energy and gas facilities located inside of Ukraine. Now, Max 25, this is what the 330 kilovolt substation near Simferopol currently looks like after being attacked by SBU drones. Okay, so allegedly we could have had another attack on a separate electrical substation located near Simferopol. On top of that thermal power plant, very possible we had another electrical substation coming under attack. This one being a 330 kilovolt substation. I could not completely confirm this, so I'm not sure yet, but if I get more details on that later, I'll let you guys know. But it's allegedly another picture coming out from a separate electrical substation that may have been attacked near Simferopol, along with that thermal power plant being attacked down here as well. Now, Visioner, as a result of Ukrainian drone strikes, powerful explosions occurred on the occupied Crimean Peninsula near the village of Krasnaya Polyana, if I'm saying that right, in the Chernomorsk district. According to preliminary reports, a gas storage facility exploded. Yes, allegedly also Ukrainian drones attacked a gas storage facility located down here inside the Crimean Peninsula as well. And Crimean Wind's going to be another Russian Telegram channel was reporting this. Take a look at this video. You're going to hear a massive explosion. All right, just a quick clip there, but yeah, unfortunately, this is something we have seen a lot inside of Ukraine, especially in the city of Poltava and the Poltava region. That's going to be kind of like central or northeastern Ukraine area. We've seen a lot of gas storage facilities being destroyed over there, and there's been reports that up to 60% of Ukraine's gas storage has been destroyed recently in the last month from a Russian strike. So Ukraine's also retaliating on gas facilities down here located in the Crimean Peninsula. Now, Igor Sushko, Russia. Almost all regions, including Moscow and Leningrad regions, have reported fuel supply disruptions as a result of the U.S.-backed Ukrainian strikes on Russian oil refineries over the past 2 months. So check out this report here. The regions of Russia affected by the fuel crisis and the location of large refineries. The red triangles indicate refineries that were attacked in August to October 2025. The green ones indicate those that were not. Problems with fuel in the region is going to be the gray areas here inside of Russia, and then also the blue is going to be authorities have restricted the sale of fuel. So yeah, as we can see, like Sakhalin, I think is what this peninsula down here is called on the eastern side of Russia, far east. We have restrictions of fuel there. Looks like over here, also closer to Moscow area, we may have had some restrictions of fuel. Numerous of these oil refineries that have been attacked. The green ones are going to be the ones that have not been attacked yet inside of Russia, but a large majority of them, you can see, especially closer to Ukraine, have been bombed already. And then pretty much all these gray areas inside of Russian territory, I mean, look at that. That's a good majority of Russia experiencing some form of disruption to fuel supplies, okay, whether they be minor or severe. We know that a lot of these areas close to Ukraine on this side of Russia over here really experiencing major fuel shortages. Some people waiting sometimes upwards of 4 to 5 hours just to fill up a half a tank of gas, as they're also putting out fuel purchase limits as well. So they can only get like up to maybe 20, 30 liters at a time. They cannot even fill up their tanks. So huge problems inside of Russia. This fuel crisis is still ongoing right now. Now, N-Strike says, quote, "If Ukraine receives Tomahawk missiles, we will strike only Russian military targets," says Zelensky. Yeah, that's something he stated yesterday. And it says the Russians sell energy resources, take the money and invest it into the military sphere. For us, they are military targets. I think the most important thing is to reduce Russia's ability to continue such a long war. Okay, so he talks about energy resources here. So I have a feeling if they receive these Tomahawk missiles, when they claim they're going to go after military targets, I feel like they're going to use these to destroy the rest of all these oil refineries that haven't been attacked yet, or the ones that have been attacked and are starting to come back online. They'll probably hit them with some of these Tomahawk missiles here moving forward. On top of that, we might see airfields being attacked, Russian military bases, things like that. But we know that Ukraine's major campaign right now that they're carrying out inside of Russia with their drone attacks is mostly on oil and gas facilities. So I have a feeling if they receive these Tomahawks, that's exactly what we're going to see, is strikes on more refineries and critical oil and gas infrastructure. All right, now from Knoll Reports, Trump said Ukraine desperately needs Patriots and would like to have Tomahawks. He added, "If this war isn't settled, I will send them Tomahawks. It's an incredible, very offensive weapon." Yeah, I want to show you this audio-only clip. Unfortunately, there's no video footage, but this was Trump on Air Force One speaking to the press yesterday. And that's what he stated, that he's apparently ready to give Ukraine Tomahawks if Vladimir Putin does not end this war. Now, he does not indicate a date or anything like that. We're not here in 2 weeks or anything, but maybe we will at some point. I want you guys to hear this real quick, about 1 minute long. Take a look.
They need Patriots very badly. They'd like to have Tomahawks. That's a step up. They'd like to have Tomahawks. We talked about that. And so we'll see. Well, I don't know. I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about Tomahawks. Do they want to have Tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I think I might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness. I told that to President Zelensky, because Tomahawks are a new step of aggression. Right? You understand that very well.
Are you saying that you will speak to Putin first about Tomahawks?
I might talk to him. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send him Tomahawks. I may say that. The Tomahawk is an incredible weapon, very offensive weapon. And honestly, Russia does not need that. They don't need that. Yeah, I might tell them that if the war is not settled, that we may very well do it. We may not, but we may do it. I think it's appropriate to bring up. Yeah, I want to see the war settled. Thank you.
All right, so there you go. Trump telling the press that if the war is not settled, Trump may allow Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. So this could be very big. Maybe we're going to see Trump speak to Putin at some point soon. Maybe they'll hold a phone call or something like that. That might be when Trump actually warns Putin about this. And maybe this war doesn't come to an end by a certain time. Maybe Trump will come out with a date. We'll have to see. That could be maybe when we see Ukraine receiving these Tomahawk missiles. So it looks highly likely that Ukraine could be receiving them very soon if Russia does not end this war. But you guys let me know what you think on that. Now, war translated, despite the fact that Trump has not officially announced a final decision on supplying Tomahawks to Ukraine, Medvedev has already become agitated and started issuing threats in response. Now, take a look at this statement here. Trump said that if President of Russia does not resolve the Ukrainian conflict, it will end very badly for him, threatening for the 101st time, basically. If the business peacemaker is talking about Tomahawks, then the phrase is incorrect. The delivery of these missiles could end badly for everyone, and first of all, for Trump himself. It has been said 100 times in a way even understandable to the star-spangled uncle that it is impossible to distinguish nuclear Tomahawks from conventional ones in flight. Their launch will not be carried out by Banderite Kiev, but by the USA. Read, Trump, how to respond to Russia exactly. One can only hope that this is another empty threat caused by prolonged negotiations with a cocaine-addled clown. Like sending nuclear submarines closer to Russia, well, you know how it goes. A submarine surface in the steppes of Ukraine. Okay, so he's kind of threatening Trump here, saying that, these, obviously we know that these Tomahawk missiles could be nuclear capable. And Russia's saying, how can we distinguish whether these missiles coming in will be carrying a nuclear warhead? So, what if the United States were to just randomly strap a nuclear warhead onto there? That's what Russia's worried about, right? Now, would the U.S. actually do that? Probably not, right? But that's what Russia's warning about, that they cannot tell whether these are going to have a nuclear warhead on them or not. So the fact that these could be nuclear capable, this is what could lead to major escalation and possibly, as we can see here, claiming there could even be a nuclear war between the United States and Russia. So we're going to have to see what happens here. But again, we've got Medvedev coming out today and warning Trump on the transfer of these missiles. Now, Max 25, Putin can be forced to make peace. Just like any other terrorist, even Hamas has already released hostages. Russia must lose, Zelensky said during his speech at the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. Now we can see that the war in the Middle East is finally ending after so many victims. There's a real chance for peace. It was difficult, but it is happening. Russia's war in Europe remains the greatest source of global instability, and it depends on all of you whether this war will end too. By stopping Russia now, you will not only help us protect our lives, you will help yourselves. And you will spare your leaders from having to do what I am doing. Turn to the world for help if Russian drones, missiles, and soldiers become a threat to you. So this was a major statement from Zelensky today, warning NATO to take a step forward right now, force Russia to end this war, as we are seeing the war come to an end in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. That was announced over the last few days that there would be a major ceasefire agreed to by Hamas and Israel. Israel's been starting to pull out of the Gaza Strip. We're also seeing that over the last 12 hours, all of the hostages that were held by Hamas, dead or alive, have been returned back to Israel. So that's good to see over there. Hopefully that conflict comes to an end completely and does not reignite at any point. But yeah, it's good news. That's kind of what Zelensky was talking about here, that, even difficult conflicts like what was going on between Israel and Gaza, if those can come to an end, this war between Russia and Ukraine can end. But obviously, we're going to need major pressure onto Russia in order to achieve that. Now, Vice Grad 24 breaking. Trump has invited Zelensky to visit him in the White House on Friday. So I thought this was interesting. Also, this information was just breaking here in the last few hours at the time that I record this for you guys. That apparently Zelensky will be meeting with Trump. So I wonder what that's going to be all about. They held apparently 2 phone calls also over the weekend, is what I heard when I was not here for you guys. So they've been definitely talking a lot. So it makes me think, are we going to see these Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine? Possibly even other types of missiles. Who knows? Maybe it won't be Tomahawks. Maybe it'll be other types of missiles, and we're going to see some form of missiles going into Russia, period. That's where things are going to turn really bad for Russia quickly, because Ukraine can effectively and quickly destroy a lot of these, critical oil refineries, oil depots, anything like that inside of Russia. We're going to see even worse strikes on top of these drone attacks that are taking place on critical oil and gas infrastructure in Russia. So I think we're going to be seeing some big news coming up this week. Now from Clash Report, Trump says, I sent Witkoff to meet with Putin thinking it would be a 15 to 20 minute meeting. Witkoff had no idea about Russia or Putin. He did not know much about politics. His meeting with Putin lasted 5 hours. I said, "What the hell did you talk about for 5 hours?" He said they talked about interesting things. This was Trump right here speaking at the parliament in Israel today. Apparently, he's supposed to be going to Egypt. Also, I heard he should be visiting there in the next 24 hours also. So, yeah, this is what he stated while speaking to the parliament. I thought it was interesting that he brought this up, that apparently Steve Witkoff at the last meeting with Vladimir Putin, just in the last couple months, apparently lasted for 5 hours. And Steve Witkoff, by the way, is going to be the special envoy that the Trump administration appointed to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, right? So yeah, they spoke for 5 hours. We also heard some information recently that apparently when he showed up to meet with Putin, he did not bring anybody with him. There was supposed to be like an aide. Somebody was supposed to be coming with him to be taking notes. Apparently, nobody came with him to take notes, and he did talk with him for several hours, according to Trump, 5 hours in this case. And Trump was just wondering, why were you talking to him for so long, and what exactly were you talking about? And apparently, Trump says they only talked about interesting things. So, yeah, I thought that was a very interesting and mysterious situation here. Why was the special envoy talking to Putin for so long when their meeting was only supposed to be for a few minutes? Now, Ukrainian review for the second time in 6 months. Lyceum in Chuhuiv, if I'm saying that right, Kharkiv region has been destroyed, and again, immediately after renovation. The building had not even had time to be put into operation when the Russians bombed it. The institution is located 64 kilometers from the front line. So Lyceum is kind of like a college or a school, I'm assuming, inside of Ukraine. And apparently this thing has been attacked twice. It got destroyed, and then they started to rebuild it inside of Ukraine, and then Russia went ahead and bombed it again. These were some pictures coming out showing the major destruction to this school, and just crazy that, Russia really does not care what they go after. They strike anything inside of Ukraine to cause massive panic and, devastation to life over here. Very sad to see that we had yet again another school here being attacked, that time in the Kharkiv region. Also, Ukrainian review, Kharkiv under attack by UAVs. First strikes recorded, more than 5 explosions heard in the city. Yeah, just a quick clip coming out from Kharkiv overnight. We had a massive explosion from a Russian drone slamming into a building. Take a look at this. All right, just a quick clip there, and as we can see, a huge explosion from a Russian drone slamming into some sort of building. Looks like a high-rise residential building that got hit there. Could that also be that Lyceum that came under attack? Maybe that's what we could be looking at there, but it looks like a residential building that may have been struck in that strike. So very sad news there. Hopefully everybody's okay. Now, NOAA reports a Russian diesel-electric submarine B-261 Novorossiysk surfaced near the coast of Brittany, France, reportedly due to serious technical issues. A French Navy frigate has been deployed to monitor the vessel. NATO confirmed the incident. This is like the second or third time we've heard about this, where these Russian submarines are breaking down, having some sort of fuel problems or engine problems. Apparently, it had surfaced near France, and there was a French Navy frigate that was deployed to keep an eye on this vessel. Yeah, Russia's really having a lot of problems just about everywhere right now. Their aviation industry, their automotive industry, even these nuclear submarines are breaking down. I mean, sanctions are really hurting them big time, and they're having a hard time keeping up on the maintenance of a lot of these vehicles, just like these nuclear submarines, which is probably why we're seeing these things breaking down everywhere. So yeah, still waiting for more information on that, but this could be a photo of this Navy frigate that was keeping an eye on this submarine here that was used by Russia. Now, next up, NATO has announced the start of its steadfast new nuclear deterrence air exercises. No live nuclear weapons will be used during the drills, Secretary General Mark Rutte said in a statement. Recently, the UK and the US and other NATO countries carried out an air operation near Russia amid a series of drone incidents, UK Defense Secretary John Healey said. This not only provides us with valuable intelligence to improve our operational awareness, but also sends a powerful signal of NATO unity to our adversaries, particularly Russia, Healey stated. Okay, so apparently NATO's going to be holding another major exercise. This one's going to be the Steadfast New Nuclear Deterrence Air Exercise. So we've been seeing a lot of this from NATO lately. They've been holding a lot of military exercise. This time is going to be regarding nuclear weapons. So obviously they're getting ready for every type of war with Russia, not only a conventional type war, but possibly even nuclear war as well. We know that NATO is getting ready for anything right now because Russia could be ready to attack NATO here in the near future. There's been lots of reports about that. Hopefully that is never the case, though. Let me know what you think on that. All right, now from Knoll Reports, Ukraine and the Netherlands are moving forward with plans to jointly produce drones. As part of the Build with Ukraine initiative, Deputy Defense Minister Suri Boyev led talks in Kiev where both sides agreed on the next steps to launch joint production and accelerate delivery of domestically produced weapons. So that's very big news. Looks like the Netherlands wants to work directly with Ukraine to help them produce drones as part of the Build with Ukraine initiative. We've been talking a lot about that. That's a major program that companies can jump on board and invest directly into Ukraine, open up shop with warehouses or production sites inside of Ukraine also. So it looks like the Netherlands is working right now to help them produce more drones, which is great to see. We know these drones are very effective at destroying Russian targets. So good on Netherlands to jump on board and help them out with that. Now, Visioner, Ukraine has received the mine countermeasure vessel, Alkmaar, if I'm saying that right, from the Netherlands, reported the commander of the Navy, Oleksiy Nezpapa. He added that Ukraine expects another such vessel by the end of the year. Crew training is already underway. The Alkmaar type vessel is designed to detect and destroy naval mines. It is equipped with remotely operated devices for their neutralization. The ship has also has an automatic cannon, machine guns, and underwater drones. Here's allegedly a photo of one of these. The Netherlands also handing one of these over to Ukraine. So a countermeasure vessel known as Alkmaar that apparently can help detect and destroy naval mines. So although Ukraine doesn't have a huge navy, they are getting some help out from some NATO nations, giving some boats over to them to help them detect some of these mines. Obviously, this could be critically used down in like the Black Sea area and to help detect any mines over there, especially off the coast of Odessa. So very good news to hear also from the Netherlands today, handing these over to Ukraine. So very good news. Apparently they'll be getting another one of those by the end of the year also. Now next, Russia could attack Europe at any moment. The head of Germany's Foreign Intelligence Service, BND, Martin Jäger, has warned that Russia could shift from hybrid operations to direct military confrontation with Europe at any moment. According to him, Moscow already views the EU as a party to the war. Jäger said Russia is systematically testing Europe's borders, undermining NATO and destabilizing the continent through sabotage, cyber attacks, and disinformation. Europe is living in a fragile peace that could turn into open conflict at any time. We must be ready for further escalation, he stressed. The BND chief also cautioned that Russia interprets Europe's restraint as weakness. Our enemy never rests, and we are already under fire, he said. Earlier assessments by Danish and German intelligence suggested that a direct Russian attack was unlikely before 2029, but Jäger's latest remarks indicate that Berlin no longer rules out a sudden scenario. So Martin Jäger, the head of Germany's Foreign Intelligence Service known as the BND, is warning that Russia may shift from hybrid operations or hybrid attack onto NATO directly to confrontation through military action, okay? Some sort of direct military attack onto NATO. And I think I have to agree with that. I think it could be highly likely Russia could do that at some point, maybe sooner than 2029, like it talks about here. Anything is really possible, but at the same time, I think it'd be a bad idea for Russia to do this right now due to their fuel crisis that's ongoing, okay? Would they be able to support major operations against NATO like that, especially right now while Ukraine is destroying all their oil and gas facilities? So I think Russia's in a tough spot right now. They cannot really afford to attack NATO, but then again, who really knows? Russia appears to be ready for everything, and we hear lots of news coming out every day that they're ready to attack NATO, so maybe they might do something crazy, and it could happen in the near future, but let's hope not. Now, Max 25, North Korea has received Russian assistance in developing submarines, South Korean defense minister stated. North Korea stated that it was developing submarines capable of launching ballistic missiles and already test launched such missiles from submerged platforms. So this is not good to hear. Looks like South Korean intelligence may be confirming that North Korea has received Russian assistance in developing submarines. So these could be potentially nuclear-capable submarines at some point in the future as well. That North Korea is actively building submarines right now that they could use for their military. This could definitely affect a lot of regions over there in the Asian Pacific, especially with South Korea. And we've been seeing the U.S. doing a lot of military drills with South Korea as well. So we're really seeing North Korea build up their military power with the help of the Russians. as obviously they've got a military pact signed with each other. We know they're directly helping each other out. We know North Korea is supplying a lot of weapons and troops over to the Russians right now, and the Russians are repaying them with helping them out with developing these submarines. So that is not good news to see over there with North Korea. Now, next up, G7 countries are preparing an oil strike against the Kremlin. Russia could lose half of its oil revenues, around 80 billion per year. According to Reuters, G7 finance ministers are drafting new measures aimed at draining Moscow's war budget, including additional tariffs on countries that continue to buy Russian oil. If the plan works, Russia's oil revenues could drop nearly by half, from 7.3 to 5 million barrels per day, leading to losses of about 76 billion annually. The G7 is also urging Saudi Arabia and the UAE to boost production, while pushing India and Turkey to reduce imports of Russian oil. Experts believe that coordinated pressure could severely weaken Russia's economy and might even force Putin to halt the war. But the question remains, can they actually make it happen? Yeah, that's obviously the real question here, right? Can the G7 countries and Europe in general push a lot of these nations to stop purchasing Russian oil? You know, for example, Hungary, Slovakia, are they going to be able to cut off Russian oil? And then Turkey's been called upon to do that. I think Turkey's slowly starting to move that direction, but it might take some time. And then India is a wild card as well. Is India going to stop doing that? I mean, we know that they're under pretty heavy tariffs right now from the United States, I think at least 50%, and they're refusing to stop purchasing Russian oil also. So we'll have to see what's going to happen here, but hopefully a lot of these nations can stop purchasing Russian oil to hurt their economy bad enough to force an end to this war. So we'll see what Europe decides to do with that. All right, now for more translated. For a certain period, time was on Russia's side, but now it's on Ukraine, says Kaja Kallas. The EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Kaja Kallas, who arrived in Kyiv, stated during a joint briefing with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha that Russia's war economy is already weak and will become weaker. Let me know what you think on that. But we've got the Vice President of the European Commission, Kaja Kallas. She was visiting Kyiv today, holding a joint conference with Andriy Sybiha, the foreign minister out of Ukraine. That's something she stated today, that Russia's war economy is weak and will become weaker. I think it will be over time. I think it's going to get weaker for sure, especially if Ukraine gets these Tomahawk missiles, because they're going to really destroy a lot of critical gas infrastructure inside of Russia with those missiles much more accurately, way quicker. I think that'll be the case here in the near future. That's going to hurt Russia's economy even more. On top of that, they're already having a huge fuel crisis. A lot of businesses are on the verge of bankruptcy right now as well. Huge problems with Russia's banking industry. Just everything inside of Russia is in shambles in terms of their economy. I have to agree with that. I think things are going to get bad for Russia. But this was a statement from her today. Let me know what you think on that. Also, Noel reports EU will allocate 10 million euros for the special tribunal on Russian aggression and another 6 million euros to support children abducted by Russia, says Kaja Kallas. The bloc is also working on an additional 100 million euros package for backup generators ahead of winter support for Ukraine. So that's good news, talking about those generators, 100 million euros. Obviously, Ukraine's going to be having some huge issues with energy in the future coming up here in the next few months because of all the destruction to their energy sites in Ukraine with these massive Russian strikes. She's also talking about 10 million euros for a special tribunal on Russian aggression. I think that's good that the EU is still thinking about that, because when this war comes to an end, there's going to have to be tribunals that are going to be held. And a lot of these, these Russian commanders, top leaders in the Kremlin, they need to be held liable for their actions for this attack onto Ukraine. Obviously, Vladimir Putin too, right? So I think that's also why we're seeing a delay to the end of this war, because maybe Russia doesn't want to face the consequences after this war comes to an end with all these tribunals. All these guys are going to go on trial for these war crimes inside of Ukraine. I mean, we've already reported all these different war crimes that have taken place in Ukraine. So that's very good that the Europe is still focusing on that at this time with these special tribunals. Now, Noel reports Ukrainian Foreign Minister Sybiha confirms that 7 more countries are ready to join the joint purchase of U.S.-made weapons for Ukraine through NATO mechanisms. Okay, I thought this was great to hear also. 7 more countries want to jump on board and start purchasing weapons directly from the United States and supply them over to Ukraine, because we know about that whole NATO initiative right now. NATO nations can go ahead, purchase weapons from the United States, deliver them directly to Ukraine if they want to. Apparently 7 more countries are ready to start doing that, helping out Ukraine, so very good news. Now, Max 25, the EU is increasingly convinced that tapping frozen Russian central bank assets is the only viable way to put funding for Ukraine on a sustainable footing. According to Bloomberg, the EU aims to reach a political agreement to use the assets at a summit meeting of leaders in Brussels next week and then start on a legal proposal for a mechanism to release money. Ukraine would receive about 140 billion euros in fresh loans using the assets, which would only be paid back by if Russia agrees to pay Ukraine for the damage caused by the war. Here's a report from Bloomberg today. EU sees frozen Russian assets as key to sustaining Ukrainian aid. Okay, so we continue to hear about these frozen Russian assets. There's about 300 billion worth of euros sitting in banks in Europe that were taken from Russia at the start of the war, and they're collecting interest right now. But obviously, the interest payments on these loans or on these assets, sitting in banks is not enough to support Ukraine. So they actually want to tap into these funds, approximately upwards of 140 billion euros of that, approximately about half or so, and hand it over to Ukraine. And if this war comes to an end, when Russia pays reparations over to Ukraine for the destruction that they've caused, that's how this loan would get paid back. So it will be in a form of a loan to Ukraine. And we've been seeing kind of stalling with this whole process, but it looks like they're still trying to work on that and possibly hand that money over to Ukraine. That's going to be a lot of money that can really help them out with their defense industry. Now, NOAA reports Ukraine was attacked by 82 Russian drones overnight, including Shaheeds, Garans, and others. Air Defense Forces managed to shoot down or suppress 69 of them across the north, east, and south. Strikes were recorded at 7 locations. The attack is still ongoing. So 82 drones going into Ukraine overnight. We've been seeing closer to about 100 drones on average every night for the past couple weeks now. Just prior to that, we were seeing some of these numbers jumping down to as high as like 30 or 40 per night. Then every now and then Russia would launch a huge attack. So they definitely are producing a lot of drones right now, because we're seeing consistently right about 100 or so drones per night. So in this case, last night was 82, 69 of those being shot down. So very good numbers out of Ukraine's defense overnight. Now from the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of October 13th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Now our final update, Russia's losses as of October 13th. 1,140 troops, 109 vehicles and fuel tanks, 3 tanks, 21 artillery systems, 232 UAVs, 2 MLRS, and 1 special equipment. Okay, so finally we got something over here. Special equipment being destroyed overnight, 2 multiple launch rocket systems. That's very good to see here. We usually see about maybe 1 at the most on average. Every now and then we see about 2 being destroyed there. 21 artillery systems, about average numbers, I'd say 20 to 30 we see here usually. 3 tanks and 0 AFVs. So 3 tanks being destroyed, but no AFVs overnight. 109 vehicles and fuel tanks. We usually see about maybe 60 or 70 on average over the last week there. So up slightly. And then troop numbers, 1,140, up quite a bit. We've been seeing on average, I'd say 800 to 900, usually for several months now. But over the past week, we have been seeing these troop losses increasing. And look at this number here, 1,123,950 troops, so almost 1.2 million troops that the Russians have lost, whether it be killed or injured in this war. Absolutely crazy numbers, staggering numbers coming out from this war. So guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's update, October 13th, 2025, and I hope you all have a great Monday out there. Enjoy your day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.